What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets PostGame Show right here on the channel and on X. And we are talking about a New York Mets victory on the postgame show, guys. Snapping the 8-game losing streak. Pitching actually came through for the most part for the New York Mets. What an inning by Ryan Stanek, the forgotten, the hated man in this Mets bullpen. Telling you guys, this guy's going to step up late in the season, the rest of the year, and he's going to be important in the playoffs. But the guy I have been killing, the guy that I've been getting on, Mr. Pete Alonso, comes through. I know there's a lot of people that didn't think they would. I saw a couple of comments in that, and you know what? They were not pitching to Juan Soto because of a double play situation. That wasn't because Pete's on deck or anything like that. But that was so much needed by Pete Alonso. Not just the game-winning hit. That home run gets his mind out of the gutter. Because it's been a real problem with Pete Alonso not hitting home runs. He's been struggling. And hopefully, over the next 12 games, he gets hot. Because right now, the Pete Alonso, Juan Soto getting hot together is a dynamic duo that is not easy to pitch around in games. So, Mets win 5-2. They snap their 8-game losing streak. The Mets will finish today in a playoff spot regardless of what happens. The Giants were losing one. I think they just tied it up. It's 1-1. I think it's like the second inning or something like that. But the Cubs are on the verge of winning, but their game's not over yet. So half a game at the moment we gained on the Cubs and the Padres, but that's yet to be determined. It might go back to 8.5 and 5. But the more important thing is we got 12 games to go. The Mets guaranteed themselves at least a half game ahead in the wild card before they have the off day tomorrow. And finally, guys, it was just – and look, this is the problem with bullpens. This is why I always get nervous about using 4, 5, 6 guys in a bullpen nearly every game. Guys you trust are not going to have it on that day. And Brooks Raley didn't have it. Brooks Raley did not have it today. Giving up the 2 runs, letting Texas tie the ball game. But you know what? As much as we've killed Ryan Stanek, that was a great inning for him. That was something that he needed. That was something that Pete Alonso needed. And more importantly, it is what New York Mets fans needed. We needed a Mets victory. It was getting to the point where it's like, are we going to win again? Are we going to win again? CD, how you doing? Thank you for the super chat. What's up to yourself? And yeah, guys, listen, I'm very it's a sigh of relief, right? You snap the losing streak, and now you have a chance on Tuesday to get another win. And again, it always starts with one win. And this was a nice performance. And finally, guys, haven't I been saying this for a while? It's been impossible to win low-scoring games with this New York Mets pitching, with this New York Mets team. And they come through the pitching after Raley put up zeros. Another really good performance by Nolan McLean. 6 innings, 5 hits, no runs, 7 strikeouts, 2 walks, which is, I love that number with the walks. He's limited in his walks, which is a good sign because he just gets better, Nolan McLean, and that is a great sign for him. When he limits those walks, he's just damn good, right? He's got to limit those walks. He's averaging 4 a game. Get those down to 2 a game, and now we're talking about, a guy that's already really damn good, even better. So hit that like button, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Finally, we got a New York Mets win to talk about. But, breaking down a lot, right? We see what happens when you get a little bit better pitching from your bullpen. In that 10th inning, we seen Ryan Stanek come in. And again, Mendoza was running out of arms here. He went to almost everybody he possibly can that he trusts, right? If the Mets didn't score in that bottom 10th, Helsley was probably going to come into the game. So, and who knows where that's going to be. Michael, why do you come on the Mets channel? Like, I just don't understand. Like, you're so focused on that. Like, worry about your team. Like, you're also not winning in a division. There's a pretty good chance you're not winning this division. Like, it's fine. I don't care about your team. It really doesn't matter. The fact that you're caring about the Mets is just the Juan Soto factor, because it's probably going to bite you in the ass in the postseason, because less Juan Soto means Aaron Judge has to be the big boy. And listen, you never know, right? Even A-Rod had a great postseason. But we're not talking about the Yankees, right? There's enough Yankee channels on YouTube to go around. You can watch them. Well, Gary should not be around anywhere near the circle of trust, but you know what? He did fine today. He did fine today. I mean, he looked a lot better. He did look a lot better. His breaking ball was his splitter. His breaking ball wasn't good. His cutter wasn't good yesterday. It wasn't. It was a lot better. He had a lot more movement on his pitches all around. Sorry, guys. But it was good. He gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, 1 hit, but he gave up 0 runs. And yeah, Kev, I understand Mullins should have stole second base. I agree with that. But what you also got to understand is that you can't run yourself out of that inning. I understand, runner on, try to steal that base. I understand that. But if he gets thrown out, now you're looking for a home run. And again, it's been the Mets have been masterful in stolen bases. But we all know what would have happened. If he would have stole that base and got caught stealing, and the Mets would have found a way to lose that game, we would have killed him. Mullins is already getting killed. And Mullins had a decent, he wasn't having a good game, but again, he came through. We got on base. He did what he had to do. And we still found the win a ball game. Again, at this point, it doesn't matter how you win ball games. I don't care how you do it. It can look ugly, great, bad, terrible, beat down. I don't care how you win. When you got this little games to go, a win's a win, man. And this team needed it more than anything right now. And Met fans needed it as well, because let's be honest, I did a poll earlier this morning, very early in the morning. I woke up, I had an off day. I was like, you know what? I'm gonna, do some gym. We're gonna, drink some coffee, relax a little bit before baseball and football Sunday and all that fun stuff. Get my day going. I was like, let me put a poll out there. 175 people voted on this poll. Are the Mets going to make the playoffs? This was around 4:35, maybe 6 o'clock in the morning. 76% of the people said no. And again, they still might, right? They still might not make the playoffs. But they only relinquished that playoff spot for a few hours yesterday, and they're guaranteed it tonight. And that's all you have to do. Again, they still control their own destiny. It does not matter. It does not matter. But the fact that you can have everything you need to do is in your hands. Doesn't matter. Your playoff spot is in your hands. Until it's not, and you have to worry about teams losing, and you have to win, similar to last year, where the Mets were going down the stretch and they had to have a lot of teams lose, and they needed to keep winning. In this situation, the Mets win. You can go on your pillow and go to sleep. You can watch football. You can watch the Chiefs and Eagles that are on right now. And by the way, guys, how about my Dallas Cowboys beat the Giants again and again? By the way, that was a terrible performance by the Cowboys. The Giants blew that game. Jesus Lord. I mean, talk about two bad teams. They're right there. We watched it, right? There's no luck for the Cowboys. We know that. They'll have a decent regular season, but they'll fail in the playoffs if they find a way in there. But, man, Giants couldn't get out of their own way. They must have had about 30 penalties in that game. I mean, they gave that game to the Cowboys. But, hey, two bad teams. We're going to be watching the playoffs at home as a Cowboy fan and a Giants fan. Yeah, the Giants have no secondary. But, it wasn't even just about that, though. Russell Wilson had nearly 470 yards. Passing. That was insane how many yards he had. The Cowboys defense ain't any better. But I mean, all the penalties cost the Giants. All the bad plays just cost the Giants. I mean, it's great when you have a kicker that can, kick 66 yarders to tie a ball game, with seconds to go. But man, listen, I'm excited. Yeah, Michael, you know what? We seen the Dodgers do bullpen games, right? So, look, can anybody name starters for the Arizona Diamondbacks other than Zach Gallen when they were going on their run it took a couple of years ago? Like, honestly, the playoffs are the playoffs. It really doesn't matter. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, the important thing here is to make the playoffs. That's it. We all know that anything can happen. Anything can happen because, again, Michael and his killing of the Mets, which is fine, right? I'm the first one to tell you about their rotation. I don't like their rotation. I ain't trusting it in the playoffs, just like I ain't trusting it all year. But the Brewers, the Phillies, both had much better pitching in their rotation than the New York Mets last year, and it didn't matter. I could have said that the Brewers have a better bullpen than the Mets last year. So it doesn't matter. It's just to get hot at the right time. And look, you got Nolan McLean, and he looks like a kid that is poised. He is not afraid of the moment. You can tell that he's well-rounded. I'm not going to say fully developed, but he's almost there. And he will be your game one starter. All you need is another pitcher. If you can get one more starter that can step up big time, and Sproat's going to get another start, possibly two. If he's the guy, great. If you can get two guys that you can trust in a short series, anything can happen. And again, Sproat had really first two good outings, his first two MLB starts, but I'm not going crazy just yet, right? I'm not going crazy yet. I don't know if Jonah Tong's even going to be in this rotation, even on the postseason roster. I don't know that yet, right? And Michael's right about one thing. I already told you guys, Sean Manaea is going to pitch in the postseason. And you know what the Mets are doing on Tuesday, right? I don't know if you guys heard on the broadcast, but on Tuesday, Clay Holmes is starting, and Sean Manaea is piggybacking off of him when Holmes comes out of the game. Now, that is interesting because I'm going to tell you this. That could be a situation where if it works out, you do it again next start. Same thing. You do the same exact thing. Clay Holmes to Manaea. And if it works out for two starts the rest of the season and you make the playoffs, why not do it in one of the games? I have no problem with that. Well, Dolo, why is Holmes still starting? Because he's the only only other guy that's consistent. Now, again, with David Peterson, unless he has two outstanding starts, he's a guy that, honestly, I loved David Peterson out of the bullpen last year. Like, he was that good in the bullpen. And again, it's going to be a tough decision. Like, do you put Clay Holmes in a bullpen when the postseason starts? Do you give David Peterson a start in the postseason along with McLean and who else? That's the thing. Well, CD, that's what I'm saying. That's why I'm saying that, like, you can pitch Holmes for 4 innings and then go to Sean Manaea after. And in the postseason, you could do that. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you see starters go to the bullpen all the time during the postseason. But we see it on Tuesday. We got to see if it works, right? If it doesn't work, then you got to scrap that idea. I like that the Mets are trying something here because, again, they're going to have 2 more starts. Holmes going to have 2 more starts before the end of the season. If he pitches, he'll pitch on Tuesday. His next pitch, let me just double check. It probably is against the Marlins. If I'm not, I could be mistaken, but let me just double check really quick, guys. I just want to see something. Just so we can get this. All right. So he'll pitch on. Oh no, actually, I'm a liar. So let's see. He'll pitch Tuesday 1, 2, 3, 4. So he'll pitch. He could have 3 starts. The worst part about this situation is if the Mets need those games in Miami, which, let's be honest, they probably will. You're gonna have to pitch every one of your guys. So the Mets might not have a chance to set up their rotation. That's the other thing that worries me a little bit. And again, we're not in the playoffs yet, but it's a conversation to be had. With 12 games to go, you got to start thinking about this. Holmes is going to have 2 more starts. McLean is going to have 2 more starts. Sproat's going to have 2 more starts. Peterson's going to have 2 more starts. But if you really look at it, let me just do this again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Holmes would pitch on McLean will pitch on Let's see. He might pitch. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Holmes might pitch in Chicago on the 23rd with Manaea. I'm assuming if it goes good on Tuesday. Maybe 1, 2, 3, 4. There is a possibility that Clay Holmes, and it kind of sets up that way. I think that's why the Mets are doing it as well. Because if you just go by numbers and with off days, the Mets can set up their rotation the way they need to set up for a wild card series. Again, you're in the playoffs right now. You have to set up your rotation to be the best guys right now for the rest of the season, for the last 12 games. But you also have to prepare yourself for a wild card. You have to do that. You can't just forget about that. And yeah, you got to win games, obviously, but you have to be aware. And I think this is why they're doing it, because if you do the math, when Holmes and Manaea pitches Tuesday, they'll have another off day that following Monday on the 22nd, which gives Holmes and Manaea that start in Chicago on the 23rd. And if you count that last game in Miami of the season, you could actually pitch Holmes and Manaea on regular rest. And if the Mets are going to go to guys like McLean, Sproat, Peterson, you have Holmes and Manaea in the bullpen for that wild card series. So if anybody struggles, you could throw them into the game. So that's probably what they're trying to do to set it up. This is a good idea. And finally, I'm actually saying I have a good idea here with this because, again, we know Holmes can't really go past the 5th inning. We know Manaea struggles after 4 innings. So if you put them together, if they give you 6 innings combined, maybe 7, and hopefully 7 combined, that's great. That's what you would want. So that's on that. I think that's what they're trying to set up for because, again, you do the math really quick. You got the off day tomorrow and Holmes and Manaea on Tuesday. And if you count the days plus another off day, you're going to have they're going to pitch on a, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're going to pitch on a 7th day. So you'll have Holmes and Manaea pitching on a 7th day in Chicago. And then after Chicago, they could pitch the last game of the season in Miami on regular rest. And then they would be available in the bullpen when you start the postseason on the 30th. So you start the postseason on the 30th. They might be available for the second game, maybe the first game, but they would be in the bullpen. So because a lot of them would be like a throw day, so they would be in the bullpen. So that's something you just have to look at, and I think that's what the Mets are setting up for. And again, if you happen to get to that Miami series on the 26th, 27th, and 28th, you could possibly have McLean and Sproat pitching that series along with Holmes and Manaea, and you still would have the opportunity of, you might have to pitch David Peterson in game 1 and then McLean in game 2. That might be the way it's setting up as well. So again, it all depends on what you need in that Miami series. Because if you only need to win 1 game, then you go all out in that 1 game, and then you can obviously rest your starters and be ready and set mostly up your rotation for that wild card appearance. And I think that's what the Mets are trying to do. They're setting up their rotations for this off day tomorrow for the remaining 12 games where you can set up every one of your pitchers that you need. And we also, I'm not very excited about it, but there's a pretty good chance that between Chicago and Miami, Kodai Senga could be available as well. So again, this could be a situation where if you want to give an extra day to like a Jonah Tong or a Brandon Sproat or a McLean, you could throw Kodai Senga in it. But again, can you throw Kodai Senga in a big spot where you need the game? It is mental gymnastics after 1 win for sure. But yeah, Dolo, you know what though? But see, here's the problem. This is why I don't like bringing up kids so late, because this is a situation here. Who are you throwing? Tong replaced who? I mean, Sproat replaced Senga. So who are you pitching other than Tong? Senga's making another start in the minors, so you can't bring him up for that start. So all you can do is hope Tong figures it out. And this is the problem when I talk about the young kids coming up so late, because you have to trust him. You don't have a choice. Who are you going to throw? McGill's done for the season. You have Kodai Senga pitching another minor league start, so he's not going to be available for the Padres. There's no one else to go to. And you damn sure ain't doing a bullpen game for the rest of the year unless it's, you're mathematically in the playoffs, because you have to use your bullpen, and you can't afford to use a ton of bullpen in a game like that. So it's yeah, but you could push him to the Nats series. But again, you can push him. But again, you could do that. You could. But again, who's pitching? Right? You got Holmes and Holmes and Manai on Tuesday. You'll have David Peterson, I believe. If I'm not, I think it's David Peterson. It should be David Peterson on Wednesday. And then Thursday, it should be Tong. Again, it's all TBD at this point. They don't know it yet. But I think that's because didn't Peterson pitch on... No, let's see. When did Peterson pitch? Peterson pitched Thursday, right? Or no, Friday against the... Yeah, Peterson pitched against Philly. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So Peterson's going to start on the second game of the Padres series. So there you go. So, and it would more likely be like, I would guess, Tong would pitch the Thursday game, or it could be Sproat. It depends. 1, 2, 3, 4. I mean, you could do that as well. I mean, you could pitch Sproat on regular rest and give Tong an extra day and pitch him in the first game against Washington. You could do that. So it's going to be very interesting. But again, you got to win ball games. Plus, you have to set up your rotation to the point where that Chicago and that Miami series really could mean something. And again, if the Mets win, let's say, again, that's a wishful thinking here. But if the Mets win the remainder of the series, again, all 3-game series from here on out, Padres, Nationals at home, and we finish the year in Chicago and Miami. So that'd be 2, 4, 6, 8 more wins. And again, if you do the math, 8 more wins is 85 victories. So 85 wins, I think that will get you into the playoffs. So again, 8 more wins is, 8-4 in your last 12. That means that the Giants have to go 9-3 in those 12 games, because they would need to pass us, not tie us. So actually, they might have to go 10-2 if the Mets do that. Again, that's a strong possibility. And committee, that's what I'm thinking. I do think that. Let me see if I can click on the comments finally. Okay, there we go. It works now. Yeah, I think that's the formula. I think that's the plan. If you put Sproat on 5 days rest, and again, he's done that in the minors, so he should have no problem with that. If you give Tong an extra day, at the very least, you hope Sproat can go 6 innings, possibly 7, and save the bullpen for a Tong start just in case. So it's a lot of moving parts, but you know what? The Mets put themselves in this situation, so it's nobody's fault but their own. But you know what? They got a very, very nice win today. This was a much needed win. It snaps their 8-game loser streak. Let's start a winning streak here, right? It starts with 1 win. Continue to win. Continue to win. That's what you got to do, and that's what we hope for. So I was trying to think of something when it comes to this series against the Padres. Like, the Padres haven't been playing well either. Like, I know they're beating up Colorado right now. I think it was 3-0 last night. They're winning 6-0 now. So the Dodgers are leading the Giants 2-1. The Athletics are starting to make a comeback. It was 3-0 Reds. Now it's 3-2 Reds. Let's see. The Cubs win, so they're back to 8.5 games in front of the Mets, which, okay, whatever with that. But the Dodgers are ahead of the Giants. And again, guys, we can go to bed tonight. We're 1.5 games up on the Giants with 12 games to go. And we don't lose any ground with anybody behind us. So That's the important thing there. But again, if the Padres lose, the Padres are going to win, so they're going to be back to 5. But you are facing the Padres here, and don't think for a second the Padres have not played well. Like, as bad as the Mets have been, the Padres aren't that much behind them. Like they've had a lot of 3-7s, 2-10, 2-8s. Like haven't been playing well. So if the Mets play well against the Padres, we could still be talking about the second wild card. I know that's crazy, but you know what? The Giants, the Dodgers, and the Padres beat up on each other. I don't know the Padres' schedule. Let me just double check. I think the Padres obviously face the Mets. Let me see what the Padres face after that. Padres face the White Sox. That sucks. Let's see. And then the Padres face the Brewers. But the Brewers already clinched, so who knows what they're doing. They still have to play for the best record because the Phillies are only 2 games behind them, so they're going to play. But they are playing the Brewers, which is good. Let's see what else they play. And then they play the Diamondbacks. So the Diamondbacks are fighting for their lives. So, again, there's a lot to talk about when it comes to that. And the Giants play the Dodgers once again. Let me see. The end of the year, the Padres are facing the Diamondbacks. Yes, for the end of the year. So, again, and yeah, easy. The Padres own the Mets. I agree with that. But both teams are not playing well. And this is a situation where both teams are desperate. I mean, the Padres, are comfortable in a second playoff spot, a wild card spot. But again, they have a bad week. They can be out of the playoffs because, again, they haven't played well either. And again, the Mets have not played well against the Padres. Doesn't matter who's pitching, right? Pavetta's pitching in this game. Michael King is coming back from injury. He's pitching in this game. That's the ones that I've seen. D-backs did win. So, again, the Mets just got to play well. You got to play good baseball. You see what they played very good baseball today, right? They played good defense. They got, for the most part, very good pitching all around. And they got the big hit when they needed it. Again, the Mets had they had a lead. Like, I don't care what people say, oh, they only scored 2 runs in the first 8-9 innings. Like, they scored 2 runs. They had a 2-0 lead. This is an opportunity for the pitching to hold that lead. Now, they didn't hold that lead. They gave up the lead, and the Texas Rangers tied it. But the Mets got the big hit. And when they needed somebody to step up to pitch well, Ryan Stanek did in the 10th inning. And that was huge. Hopefully that's a confidence booster and he gets going. And Gary Cohen talked about it on the broadcast that Ryan Stanek, these last couple of outings, has been throwing a lot more strikes. And that's been his problem. When he's walking guys and he can't find a strike zone, that's when you worry. But now he's finding the strike zone. That splitter is nasty, and that fastball is now further up in his zone, like a little bit higher than letter high. And those guys are flailing at it, and now they're worried about the splitter. So Ryan Stanek was a great performance today. It was big. Obviously, we needed that. It would have sucked if the Rangers would have scored that run. You can't count on Pete Alonso in a 3-run homer when you're down by a run. But you know what? He got the big hit, and he went the other way. Great sign for Pete Alonso when he goes the opposite field. We all know when he's on, when Pete Alonso's at his best, what does he do? He hits the ball to the opposite field with authority, and he did in that 10th inning. 3-run homer to win the ball game, walk-off fashion. Mets snapped the 8-game losing streak, got 1 win, and guaranteed a playoff spot going into tomorrow's off day. And that's all you hope for. All you want as a team, all you want as a fan base is to be the team that controls their own destiny. The Mets do. They don't need anybody to lose, and they don't need anybody to win against another team. All you need to do is win, and it doesn't matter. And if that team behind you loses, great, we gain a game. But all you got to do is worry about yourselves. There's no need for scoreboard watching. Now, again, you're watching your football, you're having a beer, you're eating, whatever you're doing, right? Later in the day, you'll check the score to say, oh, let me see if the Giants are losing. If they're losing, we're a game and a half out. So even on the off day tomorrow, and I believe the Giants play the Dodgers again, I think it's a 4-game series. If I'm not mistaken, let me just double check. What's today? And they don't. The Giants play the Diamondbacks. So they're playing tomorrow. Even if the Giants win, they only gain a half a game. So hopefully the Dodgers beat them. And right now it's 2-1 Dodgers in the 4th, again, very early. And we'll see. But at the very least, we'll be tied with the Dodgers if the Giants tied with the Giants if the Giants win today and tomorrow. But hey, they got the win and they control their own destiny. And that's what they need to do. And Wolverine, yeah, Mets fans don't want Mets to keep Pete Alonso. Again, I'm still down on Pete Alonso. I am. Right? But he needs to get hot now. He's had very bad Septembers over the last couple of seasons. He was the main reason why the Mets barely made the playoffs last year. He was one of the reasons why they barely made the playoffs last year. 2023 was one of the big reasons why they were out of it in July at the trade deadline, because he didn't play well. He was one of them. He's got to have a hot September. This is his opportunity here in the next 2 weeks of the season to step up and join Juan Soto and beating some ass. And I truly believe they're not keeping Pete Alonso, but that's a conversation for another day, because we got a victory today. Like, the world's not ending. I mean, it might. You never know with the way the world's going today. But we still got baseball. We got to win. Pete Alonso needed that home run, needed that walk-off. He has not been good. That's his first home run in his last 45 at-bats. And he finally got it. And hopefully that gets him going. If that gets Alonso going along with Juan Soto, and hopefully you'll get either Nimmo, who had a home run today, or Lindor get going, who had a really good game today too. Let's get it done. And David, that's what we hope so. That's what we hope Pete is getting hot at the right time. Because last year, at the end of the year, Pete was ice cold until that home run against Milwaukee. He was having an okay series, but nothing special in Milwaukee. But in that third game, he hit that home run. Wolverine, you could replace anybody. All right? You can love Pete all you want. But there's a reason why nobody gave him a big contract. There's a reason why he never gets MVP votes. And there's a reason why that he goes cold for 3 months out of the year and has two great. Lindor is not worse. Lindor is a different player, right? You can't individually talk about one player over the other when they're different players. Lindor is not a power hitter. He has other assets that he is very good at. And that's why Lindor is different. Pete Alonso is a pure power hitter. We all know that. But let's be honest. Pete Alonso should have 40-plus home runs, not Juan Soto. When you have only, 4 home runs more than who? Lindor? Like, that is not what you need from Pete Alonso. And again, those RBIs with those 33, 34 home runs, I like to see that, because that means he's getting more hits with runners on base other than home runs. Because Pete Alonso, for a lot of the time, was getting those home runs and was hitting a lot of 2-3 run homers, which if he didn't hit those home runs, he wouldn't get those RBIs. But Pete Alonso can get hot right now. Let's go with him and Juan Soto being hot at the end of the year. That benefits the Mets. That's all I care about. I don't give a shit about next year. I don't care about the offseason. I really don't. Like, too many people, including David Stearns and that jerk, always cares about next year and stop worrying and needs to worry about the current season. Pete Alonso, you know what, Pete? If you have a great remainder of 12 games and you have a great postseason, you might actually have a team give you a long-term deal. Maybe not the Mets, but somebody else. Because I still don't think teams are lining up to give Pete Alonso a 6-7 year deal. Probably not even a 5-year deal. I don't, there was a lot of teams that needed first baseman last year, and they didn't budge. They all went with 1-year deal type of guys, or a guy who is older but was able to get a short-term deal with Walker. So, again, well, Dolo, that's the problem. That's what I always talk about with Pete Alonso, right? Pete Alonso usually has a great April and a really good to great May, and then he'll cut off. Again, we talked about it in the pregame show. Pete Alonso had over a 400 average with runners in scoring position. It's down to 317? That's nearly a 90 to 100 point drop in batting average of runners in scoring position over a 3-month span. That's a huge jump, huge drop. Same thing goes for Juan Soto, who's batting under 200 with runners in scoring position. And now he's batting over 288 with runners in scoring position. That is an 80-point jump. Wolverine, where would this team be without Juan Soto? Because the Mets also did fail last year, right? They didn't make the playoffs with Pete. They didn't win. They didn't get to the World Series with Pete Alonso. 2023, I know everybody likes to forget that, but Pete Alonso didn't do his job, and the Mets failed in 2023, and the season was over after the trade deadline. 2022, Pete Alonso was one of the problems in 2022. He was part of that choke. Don't count him out. Again, stop giving Pete Alonso so much credit and never giving him the blame. It's annoying. It really is. Juan Soto was the only one hitting over this stretch of games where nobody else was hitting. When they were going on a losing streak, he was the only one hitting. When Pete Alonso and Brandon Nimmo were hiding in the corner, finally, Brandon Nimmo and Pete Alonso woke up today. Let's hope they keep doing it. Because great, you win this game, but don't go 0 for 10 in the next 2 games, and then we're going to be back to the same thing. No, CD, I'm not. Again, he's having a much better season than he had last year. I like the RBIs that he has. But again, he goes cold for a month on hand, and he'll have 2 or 3 months out of 6 where he's nowhere to be found. Again, this is why he's never an MVP type of guy. Again, do I want Pete Alonso to go to another team? No. I think Pete Alonso is probably be beneficial more for the Mets than any other team. But again, people are acting like Pete Alonso is, Mickey Mantle. like this guy's Tom Seaver with a bat. Like he's not. I'm sorry. Pete Alonso's a massive overpay. $30 million is a lot for a guy that I think had a terrible season. He didn't deserve $30 million after the year he had, regardless of the postseason. But we all know why Juan Soto got paid to what he did. And again, by the way, guys, everybody's overpaid. Everybody in baseball is overpaid, right? I think it's insane you're giving people $70 million a year, $80 million a year. But listen, if teams are willing, and again, guys, if you're looking for a job and a couple of jobs are willing to negotiate with you and pay you god awful money, or even if it's a lot of money to us, you would do it too, right? What are you gonna say? No, I'm overpaid. No. No, of course you're not. Right? This is capitalism at its finest. This is America. Right? This is what you do. Well, Wolverine, why are you worrying about Cohen paying Juan Soto? Your argument just coincided with your other argument. David, he has to be. I don't trust anybody. I just don't. Like, it really doesn't matter. Like, I don't care if anybody's overpaid. If you perform, and by the way, there is no Met in history that did 40-30. On base percentage, slugging, runs. Juan Soto is doing great. It's MVP caliber. Nobody likes to hear that, but how many Mets actually get MVP votes? Lindor got a couple last year. Pete Alonso rarely ever does. Like, that's the problem. Like, it's not about about who's overpaid or not. Pete Alonso and Juan Soto is a great combination to have. But let's not act like the other guy is doing bad when look at the numbers. Look at the numbers. They're having Pete Alonso's having a really good season. But again, a lot of those stats are from April and May. Go back and look. I mean, Pete Alonso, you couldn't get Pete Alonso out in April. I mean, Pete Alonso had nearly as good as May as he did April. But June and July, why do you think the Mets went on a tailspin? Pete Alonso was a big part of it. Juan Soto started to hit in June. That's when he started to get it going. So again, I love that Pete did what he did today. Again, he needed that hit. He needed that home run. Not hitting home runs gets Pete into bad funks. It just does. This is what happens. Yeah, David, I know, man. I mean, can you really say the Cowboys won or the Giants lost that game? But yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the Cowboys won a little after the Mets won, so it was pretty good. And Wolverine, yeah, it's great. I agree with that. It's great numbers. But who also has a lot to do with that? Juan Soto getting on base, right? We don't want to give the credit for that. Do you see Juan Soto's runs? A lot of those were Pete Alonso driving him in. And that was when Juan Soto wasn't hitting. He was still getting on base for a red hot Pete Alonso the first 2 months. That's important as well. But again, nobody cares about that because when Juan Soto wasn't hitting, he was still being productive by getting on base for Pete Alonso, who was the hottest hitter in baseball and hottest hitter on the Mets the first 2 months of the season. But again, when your runners in scoring position drop nearly 100 points in a 2 or 3 month span, you have not been as good as you were early in the year. And again, that's fine. As long as he steps up in September, that's all I care about. Get us over the line. Get us into the playoffs. And then Pete Alonso's numbers. I never killed Pete Alonso in the postseason. I said he had good numbers. He didn't play a lot of games, but in the games he played, he has really good postseason numbers. We know Juan Soto, how clutch he is in the postseason. We know about Lindor's clutchness in the postseason. I want those guys to get into the postseason because guess who I trust more than anybody else on this New York Mets team getting into the postseason? Those 3 guys. Because look at their numbers. Again, Lindor, before the Mets, was a clutch performer with Cleveland. Juan Soto, since Washington, was clutch in the postseason, let alone in San Diego when he faced the Mets. Look at his numbers in that series. Then we saw him with the Yankees. What he did. Yankees would have never got to the World Series if it wasn't for the combination of Stanton and Soto. And Wolverine, I agree. Lindor has been terrible. But you know what? Did you see the hustle plays by Lindor today? And again, his defense was better. So that's a great sign. Well, Lindor is a big disappointment right now. But again, you want to look at his numbers? This is a guy who's not a big power hitter and is still batting to exactly what he does every year. So if you're saying it's a disappointment, then you're not looking at his stats. You're just not. You're just not. Oh, no. Pete Alonso didn't have a great postseason, but it was very solid. Like, you're not going to kill his numbers. It's not Murphy. It's not, it's not even Viento's numbers in the postseason. Like, it's not. And come on, Dodgers. God, I'm rooting for the Dodgers. Jesus. That sucks. Wolverine. Soto's numbers are very good, but not amazing. There is no Mets in their history that had 40 home runs and 30 stolen bases. Along with all those walks, along with the on base. Everything's there. The average is a little bit of a dip from his career average. But everything else is right where you want it to be. Again, Juan Soto is developing into a 35, 40 home run guy. So your average is going to dip when you try to hit more home runs. Your on base, your strikeouts are going to dip a little bit. Why? Because you're going to be swinging for the fences more. You're going to have more strikeouts. I would rather 35 home runs from Juan Soto and give me another 10 to 15 points on the average. But again, he's getting into his prime. He's 26 years old. He might be getting stronger and getting more of that power. And again, if that dips the average a little bit, then I guess you're okay. I mean, this is the world we live in of only people care about home runs and OPS. So if you're looking at those 2 numbers, Juan Soto's a genius. Like, okay, Howard Johnson. But he wasn't 40-30. And I love Hojo. Hojo was my favorite player. Him and Ray Ordonez. 2 totally different players. But yeah, Howard Johnson. I love that. I love Hojo. But even Juan Soto is having a season like he never had before. His season is going to be better than last year. Just based on he has 40 home runs now. He had 41 last year. You would think in 12 games he hit like 2 more home runs to pass his career high in home runs, which means he's going to have more home runs in his career and more stolen bases in his career, and he's doing that as a New York Met. Again, you want to kill Juan Soto? Go right ahead. That's your opinion. That's fine. But let's not act like Pete Alonso is the better all-around player, because he's not. There's a reason why Pete Alonso don't get a long-term deal from anybody last year when Juan Soto was getting massive deals from multiple teams. Everything matters, in my opinion, when you're given long-term deals and massive contracts. In my opinion. Do I want to lose Pete Alonso? No. I'm not saying that. I never said he's a bad player. But stop making it out that he's like this like ultra ego type guy and he's like a superhero. He's not. Break down all the numbers month by month. There's a reason why he's not an MVP candidate in a year. And again, he suits the Mets better than I think any other team. So I don't want to lose him, but I'm not also giving him a 6-year deal. I just can't. CD, I should have, right? No, I gave a lot of credit to Pete Alonso because, look, the home run was needed because when Pete Alonso don't hit home runs, he gets into these funks. I don't know why, but that's just what he does. And that's fine. Everybody goes into the slumps. Everybody goes into bad situations and bad slumps. We all know that. It's baseball. You fail more than you succeed. We all know that, especially if you played. Let's go A's, baby. 4-3. That's what I'm talking about. Wolverine, anybody's replaceable. Right? Anybody's replaceable. And there goes my coworker Wayne, Reds and Giants losing. There we go. I like that. CD, I'm very mad. And you know what? When Pete Alonso is playing for the Cincinnati Reds next year, everybody will be excited. Yeah, Wolverine, the Mets are not giving him that. And if you think Pete Alonso is taking less than $200 million, you're nuts. I'm sorry. Because what is 6 for 180? What is that? Let's see. 180 divided by 6 is $30 million a year. I don't think the Mets are going to do that. I just don't. Not for 6 years. I just don't think so. I don't think so. Unless Steve Cohen jumps in and doesn't care, just like he did this year with Juan Soto and Pete Alonso. I don't know. I don't know. Who will replace Pete? Ryan Clifford. I know. Nobody cares about Mets prospects when you're talking about replacing a guy like Pete Alonso, but Ryan Clifford, I believe, is the guy that is looking like the guy to replace him. And 6-1 Dodgers, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go, Dodgers, baby. Blue and white. That's what I'm talking about. Let's go. I still can't. I can't believe I'm rooting for the Dodgers. I mean, it benefits us, so you have to. But, man. Yeah, I agree. I think it's Ryan Clifford. Again, have you not noticed what David Stearns has been doing with our position players, prospects? He's brought most of them up. You really think Jet Williams and Ryan Clifford? I mean, this is the reason why they traded Drew Gilbert, because of Jet Williams and Ryan Clifford. Like, that's a fact. Like, again, I think Pete Alonso fits the Mets better than anybody else. But again, I love how Met fans are quiet about prospects when it says, oh, well, you replace Pete Alonso with Ryan Clifford. Now everybody hates prospects, right? These are the same people that didn't want to trade any prospects for anybody, and now mad that prospects are going to be doing it. Wolverine, I don't think the Yankees are gonna spend more money. I think they're already crying poor with the Max Fried contract, but so easy. Yeah, I think that was a possibility as well, a Rule 5 eligibility as well. BG again. It's not about just replace. Again, see, too many people think that, you cannot replace one player, which is ultimately true. But again, this is a guy who does not care about prospects. I think that they're always overblown, and they always are disappointing. Most of them are disappointed. They never live up to their hype. But again, if you don't re-sign Pete Alonso, if Ryan Clifford comes in here and is a guy that everybody believes, like he's killing, like nobody's talking about Ryan Clifford to the point where they were talking about Jet Williams and Luis Acuna and this guy and Mauricio and that guy. Yet Ryan Clifford had been having a great minor leagues. Great. And where's he playing? Like, unless you're going to trade him, and again, this is the problem. And I think Ryan Clifford is a backup plan if the Mets don't re-sign Pete Alonso. Yeah, the Cubs as well. It's possible. They might lose Tucker. There's no guarantee that they might sign Tucker long term. So again, there's going to be a team out there that's going to give him 6 years, maybe more, 6 or 7. And if there's a battle, I don't think the Mets are going to go past 5. I think that's a stretch. So why do I attract these clouds? I don't know. It used to be worse. Like, honestly, it used to be worse with Braves fans and Yankee fans. It used to be tiring. Like, I mean, it was like, come on. Game for war, yeah. Well, you know what? Not a lot of guys can. Well, Easy here, and Easy, that's a great point. Let me put that comment up there, right? Here's the thing. If you put Ryan Clifford at first base, don't you solve your DH problem by giving Schwarber a 4-year deal? Who would be your everyday DH, which the Mets never had in there since it's been in existence in the National League, right? Isn't that more understandable where you can get Schwarber, have a cheap Ryan Clifford who can probably hit 20 home runs for a year? So that's basically 50 to 60 home runs, because Schwarber is a 35, 40 home run guy, obviously. 50 home run guy, but let's go crazy. Let's not go crazy. Let's go 40 home runs, and let's say Clifford hits 20. That's 60 home runs right there with replacing Pete Alonso, and you just replaced Pete Alonso with 2 players lengthened in your lineup. Now, do I think Ryan Clifford can do that? I don't know. Like, I'm not a big proponent of saying, hey, look at the minor league numbers, and he's going to do that in the major leagues. I think we should learn our lesson as Met fans that it doesn't really work out that way. Right? So, but again, and Wolverine, that was the plan. I truly believe that was the plan with Guerrero. But again, I think the Mets want their option, because Pete Alonso's opting out. He's having a really better year than last year. He's going to opt out. I think it was smart to keep their options open, even with Guerrero have signed that extension, because the Mets do have a young option. If the Mets are serious about going after Schwarber, and don't think for a second that David Stearns won't. Stearns and a player, I picture a guy like Kyle Schwarber, because he hits home runs and he's an on-base guy. David Stearns loves those guys. Pete Alonso hits home runs, but he's not an on-base guy. And again, if Stearns is that guy, he loves those type of players. He loves home runs and he loves on-base guys. Schwarber is exactly that. He walks a ton. He hits a ton of home runs. Obviously, those home runs develop a lot of RBIs. And he actually has his average up to 250, 260, which is a hell of a lot higher than he had the last couple of seasons. So if it's between Pete Alonso and that's it, you're not getting the DH, and Ryan Clifford's in no man's land, because again, Ryan Clifford's very blocked at that point, and you have to trade Ryan Clifford then. This is what you have to think at here. Are the Mets going to use Ryan Clifford as their possible backup as their first baseman if they don't re-sign Pete Alonso? Or they're thinking about signing Pete Alonso, but that's probably the only big signing they're going to get, because I don't think they're signing the starting pitcher. You can forget that. They might trade for a starter. Now, if the Mets are really serious about re-signing Pete Alonso, then I'm all on board. Guess what? You trade Ryan Clifford. Fuck, I'll even trade Jet Williams. Get Sandy Alcantara here. Then you'll have Alcantara, McLean, Sproat, Peterson, Manaea, And you'll see what you do with Holmes and Kodai Senga. Like, there's your 6-man rotation. I'd throw Holmes back in the bullpen. Like, you could do that. But it gives the Mets options. And in my opinion, I'd rather have options than being forcibly having my back against the wall and only have Pete Alonso or bust. And easy, I'm glad you brought up Kyle Schwarber. I thank you for that. Because I didn't even think of that at the time. And Chris is a big supporter of getting Schwarber. And listen, that's the way you get that production back. You put Ryan Clifford at first base, it saves you a ton of money, and then you go get Kyle Schwarber, who I think is going to be cheaper than Pete Alonso. I would do it. I mean, that's another option. I'd rather have options. And again, we're going way past that part already because. And yeah, Alonso is a good defensive first baseman. But again, listen. And BG Grid, he wants to play here. He didn't want to play here when the Mets offered him an extension a couple of years ago. That's how badly he wanted to play here. So I don't want to hear it. Yeah, but BG, Nimmo can't go anywhere. Where's Nimmo going? I don't trust Nimmo to be a DH. He doesn't hit enough for me. Like, I don't want a DH guy being a guy like Nimmo. I want a DH that mashes. I don't want the DH to be a freaking, a floater. A guy who, you have that position for like 4 or 5 different guys. I hate that. Can we have a DH? Somebody that you put in the lineup every day against righties and lefties so we don't have to platoon guys? It doesn't work. We tried it with Winker and Marte, didn't work. We tried it with Winker and this guy, didn't work. Marte and somebody else didn't work. Vogelback, Ruff, didn't work. Like, give me a guy that can actually hit and keep him in the lineup. That's what they need. So again, Clifford can play right field as well, but he's played a lot of first base. The Mets have done that. He played a lot of first base. And he's a lefty. He's a guy. He's a left-handed bat. I know that it adds another lefty, but again, I still think that you give yourself options, and that's where you got to be. But again, we're worrying about the offseason when we shouldn't be worrying about the offseason because the Mets won a ball game today, guys. 5-3 walk-off fashion in the 10th inning. Mets blew a 2-0 lead, but the Mets got the big hit from Pete Alonso in the 10th inning. Walk-off fashion, opposite field, 3-run homer to win the ball game, to snap their 8-game losing streak, and they have an off day tomorrow. So great. Wolverine, I would do that. That would be awesome. And now I would have Ryan Clifford and Jet Williams. I'd trade both of them for Sandy Alcantara. And now we're talking. But I find that hard to believe that they're going to pay both of those guys. I'd love that. Trust me. That would be awesome. But I find that very hard to believe. So, guys, the Mets win. They're guaranteed to be in the playoffs tonight, regardless. The Giants losing 6-1, get beat down by the Dodgers. And again, what did I tell you in the pregame, guys? The Giants were red hot. They're cooling off a little bit. Giants lose today, we're a game and a half up. So that means if they lose tomorrow, no matter if they win or lose against the Diamondbacks, it would only be a half a game behind the Mets. And the Mets will still go into Tuesday in a playoff stock, guys. So with that said, thank you for tuning into the Mets PostGame Show right here on the channel and on X. Mets win 5-3. We got an off day tomorrow. We snapped that 8-game losing streak, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for a Mets Talk live show. Sometime maybe 5 or 6. We'll get into it more. We'll talk about the Padres series. We'll talk about this series against the Rangers. And we'll talk about a lot of combinations that could happen, tiebreakers and all that fun stuff as well. With that said, have a good night. Let's go Mets. And I'll see you tomorrow on the off day, guys. I'll see you tomorrow, guys. Let's go Mets.
Meet the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed